Want to welcome everyone to Yapi Kala once again, and great I'm here learning. I was going to share someone else come in. It's really discuss and pleasure to see everyone come out on the day off, as always, and Baruch Hashem, we have the schos once again to host Rabbi Zimmerman this year. Fourth year, Rabbi Zimmerman has come to mechazik, teach, and give the olam a little bit from his ideas and experience in life, both in the shiurim and throughout the Shabbos and other areas. And over the years, people have developed a relationship with him, and it's a big schus to have that kesher with the Rav in our community with the Rav. Just once again, I want to thank our sponsors, is the law firm of Stockholm and Braverman, and Josh is here. Well, special mazel tov to Josh. Hashem. Mazel tov having Shalom Zachar. And Mr. Hashem. And thank you to Josh. And at this point, Baruch Hashem, we've been many years together working on Yediyas and Choshen Mishpat and business halacha. We've covered many of the Choshen Mishpat in Yanim, so we figured a way to get in Yeridea into business a little bit this time. But it's really something that's been spreading, and now there's other areas doing it, and Choshen Mishpat Chabura, and a lot of areas that have grown thanks to their partnership with us, and it's very much appreciated. And Mitzvah Hashem, it should be a schus for them and their families, and Mitzvah Hashem to see a lot of atzlach and all their inyanim, Be'ez Hashem. So, just once again, thank you, Rabbi Zimmer, for coming, and it's a schus to call on the Rav to give the shir on the inyan, on the sugya.
Bershus, Rashi HaKoilel, Chavrei HaKoilel, all those who came out to learn on the day off. It shows what they are machshuv. Today's topic is actually in Yeridea, the halachas of chaysamois, which are found in Simin Kuf Yud Ches, or as it's titled, From Uber Eats to Office Fridge. Probably the most oft asked question is, I get a delivery from Uber Eats, or in England from Deliveroo, and it came unsealed. It's exactly what I ordered, but it came unsealed. What is the status of this food? Before we answer that, we'll learn through Siman Kuf Yud Ches. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Lamed Tes on the bottom, says, Omer Rav, Chavius Aser B'chaysim Echad. Champag Mutter B'chaysim Echad. And the Gemara explains what does this acronym mean. And after the Gemara corrects it, the final thing is Chatichas Dag, fish, Basar, meat, Yayin, wine, Chelis, is Asr b'chaysim echad. It needs 2 chaysamis. Cholov, Murayis, Pas, and Gvina is mutter b'chaysim echad. So certain things need 2 chaysamis, 2 seals, and certain things 1 is enough. What is the difference? What needs 2 seals and what needs one seal. So it's machlekes Rishonim how to explain it. Rashi says it depends if it's expensive. Expensive things need 2 seals. Cheaper things need only 1 seal. It's simply a question of motivation. The greater the gain, the greater the motivation, the greater the protection you need. The Ran says the chilik is it isser megufay or isser machmas tarubas dava acher. Something that could be inherently treif, like a fish or meat, that needs 2 chesamas. Things which are inherently kosher, and the question is just a problematic ingredient, that only needs 1 chesam. The Rambam says the nafkamina is whether it's a chash of a deraisa or a derabanan. Something is a chash deraisa, it needs 2 chesamas, and if it's a chash derabanan, 1 chesam is enough. And if you look in Shulchan Aruch Siman Kuf Yud Ches Sif Aleph, clearly paskins like the Rambam. Kuf Yud Ches Aleph, he says the difference in Chavis and Champag, and then he says V'chol she'isuroi medivrei seifrim shivkidoi biyad goy muta b'chaisam echad. So if the shaila is a drabanan, 1 chaisam is enough, and if the shaila is a deraisa, then you need 2 chaisamas. Baruch atah Adonai le'enu melech haolam she'akol midbar. It's an interesting shaila like this. To ascertain that it's not asur midrabanan, 1 chaisam is enough. Deraisa, 2 chaisamas. Meat needs 2 chaisamas. Cheese needs 1 chaisam. What happens if you have a box that has meat and cheese in it and has 1 chaisam? Do we say, hey, the cheese is kosher, so the cheese is kosher, the meat must also be kosher? Or do we say, well, the meat is treif, so the cheese must also be treif? Or do we say the cheese is kosher and the meat is treif? And the Darkei Tshuva says that this is a shaila in Yoreh De'ah. In Kuf Yud, we know if, let's say, you have roiv kosher meat and a miyat of treif, and you don't know which one you bought, so it depends. If it was delivered to your house, we say kol de parish, meruba parish. If, however, we say you went into the store to buy it, kol kula kamechza mechza. What happens if you have half an animal which was delivered to your house and the other half you bought in the store? Now, there's no such thing as a half an animal being kosher and a half an animal being treif. So what do? Do you say the half an animal that's in my house is kosher, so the one in the store the other half has to be kosher? Do you say, no, the one in the store is treif, so therefore the one in the house is also treif? Or do you say no? Although it's impossible, the halacha is that the one in your house is kosher and then the one in the store is treif. And this is a famous machlekes in Siman Kuf Yud, the Chachmei Vilna, and this machlekes is totally in this. Now, one example is cholov. Cholov is a shaila of a drabanan. Therefore, it only needs 1 seal. So the question is asked, but cholov is a shaila of a deraisa, shema irav ba davar tamei. The reason why cholov akum is also because there might be some tarfus in it. So bishlam, according to Rashi, it's inexpensive. According to the Ran, it's just a shaila of tarus. But according to the Rambam, the shaila here is a shaila of a deraisa. They might have added some horse's milk to it. And the Pischei Tshuva brings famous Noid Yehuda that tam ke'ikr does not apply on an isser asay midiraisa, only on a lois asay. And since cholov tomei is only asser as an asay, so therefore even if there is mixed in some horse's milk, it will only be asser midrabanan, and that's why 1 is enough. Next is pas. Bread only needs 1 chesem. As the Shach writes in Halacha Yud, pas, ein by ela shema yachlav b'pas shelahem. The whole shaila is pas akum. Hilkach b'mokim shenoigin hete b'pas shel over the kechavim. People eat pas palta. Pshita dein sarach chaysim klal. You don't need any chaysamas. The question is, but maybe it's pas balabayis. Even if people eat pas palta, but this might be pas balabayis. That's also why does it not need a chaysam? And the Kaf HaChaim says it's a svek sveika. Maybe it was switched, maybe it wasn't switched. Even if it wasn't switched, but maybe they switched it with paspalta, which is kosher anyway, and therefore it's mutter. The Kaf HaChaim says, another answer, roiv, bread is paspalta. Very, very little paspala bias. So therefore, if I have a suffix what it is, I assume it's paspalta. The Chikkei Leiv has a very interesting thought. He says, what's wrong with pasakum? It's chasnus. You might come to marry them, you get close. He says, there is no issa chasnus if I don't know for sure it's pasakum. Not go marry someone because maybe they gave me some bread. And therefore, he says you don't have a chash. Now, just to make it clear, this is in the times of Chazal. It's implicit when you learn Gemara that bread is kosher. The sole question is it pasakum? Why is that so? Because bread used to have either two ingredients, flour and water, and maybe yeast, or three ingredients, they added salt. As you see in Shulchan Aruch, do you have to dip it into salt or not? Today, bread is made out of as many ingredients, and some of them happen not to be kosher. They put oil, could be vegetable oil, it could be lard, it could be anything into bread to keep it soft and moist. That is a shaila of kashrus and a shaila of a deraisa. And therefore you have to know, today bread needs two chesamas. Same thing, bread, or what we call matzah, on Pesach needs two chesamas because it's a shaila of a deraisa. Shulchan Aruch continues in Sif Aleph. V'yesh oimrim. There are those who say, she'af b'dvarim shetzrichen shnei chesamas. Even if you need two chesamas, le'amru ela b'sheleach al yedei goy. You send it with a nachri, and you'll never see it again. She'ena asad liris chaysim. Avol mafkid she'asad liris chaysamai. If I give food to a guy, hold it for me, and then when I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to see it myself. Dai b'chaysim echad. There, it's enough to have one chaysim. Ki hu yarei, because he is scared to change it because it will be noticeable. Now the Shulchan Aruch says this as a yesh oimrim. And this is very negeya in your office fridge, where you put something in the fridge, and you tie it up, and you make a chaysim, and you only make one chaysim, but you're going to see it later. The yesh oimrim is saying it doesn't need two chaysamis because you're going to see it later. The question is, do you paskin like this yesh oimrim? And that's a machlekes. The Pri Torah and the Beis Meah says the general rule when you learn Shulchan Aruch, if it says A, the yesh oimrim B, he's paskening A, and therefore, since it only says as a yesh oimrim, you cannot rely on it, at least l'chatchila. The Pri Chadash says we do pasken like the yesh oimrim. The Aruch HaShulchan says there's no machlekes in the first place. It's not a contradiction. The beginning of the halacha was sheleach, and this is mafkid. And therefore, he says we paskin, chaysim echad is enough if you are going to see it. Why? Because there's a mersus. There's a question asked, do I have to actually check it later? Well, the very fact that I know that it had a chaysim and I could check it later is enough. And when you look at the shach, you'll see, and the Pri Chadash, that it's enough. You don't have to check it later. Mersus is enough. The Aruch HaShulchan disagrees. Next, the Ramah says, "V'yesh oimrim deloy be'inu shtei chesamis rak b'Yisrael." Only when it's a goy chashud. Aval begoy hakoil shorei al dei chaysim echad. This is the psak of the Ramah. That b'di'evid, sending with a goy, is mutter b'chaysim echad. Only a Yisrael chashud. And this is just a lesson for those people in kashrus. Sometimes you think, well, I have a Jewish manufacturer, a Jewish merchant. He's not so trustable. It's okay. I'll treat him like a guy. That's the parlance we use. I will treat him like a guy. You should know he's worse than a guy. A guy you can trust the chaysim echad. A yid is not so. Yidden that are not chashud, china chashud are much more dangerous than guy, unfortunately. Now, something which is an Issa Deraisa needs two Chaysamis. What is the Maila of two Chaysamis? So Rashi says, the Tricha Lezayef. It's hard, it's a bigger Tircha, takes greater effort to falsify it. Now, it's implicit that you could falsify it. As a matter of fact, if you could invent a chaysim which you cannot be mezayef, you'd only need one. It's only because you could be mezayef it, therefore you need two, because two is harder, and therefore you need greater motivation to do it. This is a tshuva and beis shleima. Wine traditionally came in barrels. There was only one chaysim. For that matter, I don't know now, but when I grew up, Kedem wine with the metal caps only had one chaysim. But since it's impossible to open the cap without splitting the ring, so that is good enough. And Moshe Feinstein says a can of tuna only has one chaysim. There's a label around it. But the answer is you can't open a can of tuna, take out the contents, and replace it without it being noticed. And therefore, where it is, you cannot falsify it, one chaysim is enough. When you could falsify it, then you need two chaysams. So that brings up a shayla. What happens if I invent a chaysim, which is very hard to falsify, but you could falsify it, and the effort that it would take to falsify this one chaysim is the equivalent of the effort it would have taken to falsify two chaysamis in the time of Chazal. In other words, what is the dakana? The dakana is I should have a tircha. The application is two chaysamis. But if I let's say it should take me 10 minutes to do it. So if I invent a 10-minute seal, that's good enough or no? The reason for the dakana was tarach l'zayv, but today you need two chaysamis. And the answer is, look at Sifhei. Sifhei, it says, you get meat, Mishalach al yedei goy yerach b'loy chaysim. So the halacha is, if nicker was done on it, it is mutter. What is the heter of nicker? A guy could do nicker also. So what is the heter of nicker? Zok de Rashba, because nicker is a tircha gedela like two chesamas. So it's implicit in the Rashba that even if you don't need two chesamas, but what you need is something with a tircha. The Rosh and the Meiri say that nicker is a siman muvik. The siman muvik, it's a total different heter. It's nothing to do with chesamas. So this shaila, if I have a one chaysim which I could falsify, but it's very difficult, is it like two chesamas? From the Rashba we have a raya, from the Meiri we don't. Now, it says in Sif Beis, in the Ramah, that this whole chash, that the guy switched it, is only if it's nene b'chalipin. He benefits from it. There's some motivation to do it. Shaila is, let's say there's no benefit. Is there a motivation that a guy wants to be machshalayid? A guy would dafka switch it, lahachas. Why? Because he wants to be machshalayid. Or it's only when there's some type of personal benefit. So give a look at Taisus in Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Beis. Taisus says, Umahai taima shavkinon b'chol yoyim k'deir shalonu l'shivcheseinu oivedis kechavim v'loi chashinon dilma hitila issa b'seichai. There's no such chash that a guy added something b'dafka. She has no motivation to do so, and therefore we don't have such a chash. And that's the opinion of the Rosh and the Ran. Shuvas Harashba, he says, Tzarachian. I don't know, do Gayim switch things lahachas, but only for benefit? How do we paskin in this machlekes? Do we have to worry about it was being done lahachshel? In the Marit, he says, depends how hard it would be. A guy doesn't go out of his way to be machshel someone, but if it's very easy, maybe he'll spring for it. The Pri Chadash and the Pri Taya say no. There's no reason to be chayshish for it. The Noid Behuda says there's no reason to be chayshish, and his lashon is ve'ein tzarech shum raya b'davar shesvara nachayna mitzad atzmai. You don't need to prove things that are self-evident. It's self-evident. No guy does things just to be machshel yid, and therefore it is mutter. We don't have the chash of being machshel, and that's the psak of the chachmas adam and arach hashulchan. Now that's b'di'evid. What about lichatchila? Are we worried the guy will be machshel? Taisus says no. Taisus says mahai taimish avkinan b'chol yain. We do it lichatchila. The Rashba is Mesopik. How do we paskin in that machlekes? Moshe Feinstein writes in his Chuvas, Ein manichin vaday the Taisus b'fnei Sofik HaRashba. Ein Sofik meitz v'dei vaday. Rashba says, I don't know. Taisus says, I do know. If you do know, we follow the person who says we don't know. So we're not worried about being machshel. And therefore, the whole chash is if it's nana b'chalip. Does the person benefit? Normally, benefit means financial benefit. Take the kosher meat, sell it off, put in tray for meat which is cheaper, and then sell it off again. That's a financial benefit. There could also be personal benefit. What happens if imagine you're driving a delivery truck and you're going long distance and you're hungry. You have to imagine you're a guy also. And so you might just be motivated or tempted to eat what's in the truck and then replace it. That's also called nene b'chalipin. As I state in Chacham Tzvi and the Beis Meir. Question is as follows. Let's say it's not nene b'chalipin. The delivery is taking place in town. The guy wants tuna fish sandwich. He can get his own. There's no financial benefit for switching it. So the halacha is that it's mutter. Is it mutter lechatchila? Or no, it's only mutter b'di'evet. Can you send something with no chesamis if there's no motivation for the guy to switch it? And Moshe Feinstein writes like this. The truth is, from Taisus it's mashma, it's mutter lechatchila. It's interesting to note, the Ramah brings down in two places, Yud Beis and Sif Yud, whenever the Ramah brings down nene b'chalipin, he brings it down as a di'evet. When Mechaber says it's aser, zak the Ramah, but if ein nene b'chalipin, it's mutter. Why doesn't the Ramah just simply say that ein nene b'chalipin doesn't need chesamis? So he's medayik that the Ramah himself, although there is shainim, don't say that, and in Taisus it's clearly mashma not like that. But from the lashon of the Ramah, it's mashma. The Ramah relied on ein nene b'chalipin only b'di'evet. Someone asked the following shaila. I have a cousin called Rabbi Yehuda Chesna. He's a rav in Ofakim, wrote many svarim, and he said like this: there was a kiddush Shabbos morning in the shul, put up a big cholent, and Friday night they made sure to lock the doors on the way out, so it should be guarded. What they didn't realize is the Arab cleaner was locked into the shul with a cholent. And later he let himself out and went home and locked it again. So he told me, he was asked the Shaila, you have a problem of, it was alone with a guy without any chesamis. And he told me, and it's very pashut, there is absolutely no chash the Arab is going to switch it. There's only a shaila he's going to steal it, but there is no shaila that he's going to switch it. He's not going to go take cholent and then go get Arabic cholent, Lebanese cholent, and put it in instead. The only chash is gzela. He wants to steal, but it has nothing to do with hilchis kashrus. And this brings up a question. Let's say you hire a babysitter who's not from, or not Jewish, babysit your children. Do you have to worry that she switched the food? And he writes, and in Chuvas Shevet HaKahasi, he says no, because babysitters don't switch foods. They don't leave the children alone to go switch the food, they just eat food. And Mamela, there is no chash of chalipin. In Shevet HaKahasi suggests, it would be appropriate if you hire a babysitter, you should tell them, help yourself to whatever food you want. And then they won't even have a Yetzer Hara to go switch it because they already had permission to eat it. But Al Kapon, the Shaila is, once we hold that you're not Chaysha to be machshel, to add something treif, for lahachis, the only Shaila is if you're going to switch it. Certain people, workers, don't switch things, they just steal things. It says in Shimon Kuf Yoches, Sif Zayin, that if Sheileach biyad nochri in a mokai mavel rabim, in a place, in Sholach Yidei Goy b'loy chaysev, in oisa mokai mavel rabim, mutter, if it's a public area, it's mutter shu yarei shema yir'enu echad ma'orim yitfus olav kegan. He's not going to switch it in a public area. The Poskim write, the Shach says, that if this public area just has goyim, then it's only mutter b'di'evet. There's a chash he might switch it, but it's very small chash. If it's b'shchunas Yisrael, if it's in a Jewish neighborhood, then it's mutter l'chatchila to send it without any chesamis. However, it has to be that it's carried in Rishus Harabim. If it's carried, let's take an example. Chuvas Beis Shleima, it was sent by train. Train is a public thing, but it was sent in the cargo section of the train. Cargo section of the train is not a makam avel rabim. The Beis Shleima says, then it's going to be usher. The back of a truck, you send it in a truck, and the back of a truck is not a makam avel rabim. Question is, what is a car? A car doesn't have any hidden places. You can look through the windows, but it is a private place. Is something sent in a car a makom maver l'rabim? This is a machlekes. We'll get back to it. In Chuvas Avnei Yashpei from a fine handler, he says it's not. Rabbi Zriel Auerbach writes that it is. Well, every car with tinted windows, the front window, I think, is not tinted. No, it's again Hilchas Yichud. Much more important than thing is that all the windows are not tinted. Now in Sif Hey, it says Nicker is a siman, and then it adds a few words. Ukiyotzaboy, and anything similar to Nicker. What does it mean? Anything similar? What is he referring to? He must be referring to something. That this is a siman, and therefore it is mutter. And the answer is, Beis Yosef tells the following story from a Tshuvas Haran. A mashgiach, they were salting and preserving sheep. This was in Mallorca in Spain. His job was, he was going to go home for Pesach vacation. His job was to seal it. Came back 6 weeks later, and oops, he forgot to seal it. Left alone in Mallorca, surrounded by Goyim, not a Jew in sight. Doesn't sound promising. He went and asked the Ran. And the Ran said, tell me, do Goyim in Mallorca eat salted sheep? He said, no. Where is the nearest salted sheep in Spain at that time? He said in Catalonia. The Ran says it's mutter. Because the chash is you're going to eat it and switch it. Well, isn't a treifa version of it. Pri Chodesh says, "Hu adin pashtida." Got a shaila, one of the famous caterers in London is called Rice Caterer. Very hamish, thick food, not good if you're on a diet, but it happens to taste good. And it's in Golders Green, where I live. They made it's catering a kiddush in Edgware. It's about 5 miles away. Goes through Gaisha neighborhoods in a truck. And the food arrived. The meat was sealed. A lot of things were sealed. There were two very important things that were not sealed. The gala and the grieben. I don't know if in Florida you have such food. But those two were not sealed. So the Baal Simcha called me up. What's a kiddush without gala and grievin? What's going to be? But it wasn't sealed. And shy of deraises. So I asked him, tell me, can grievin and deraises? Gala is also, I think. So I said, tell me, can you get tray for gala and grievin within a half hour in London? They said, no, you probably have to go to Antwerp to get it. So I said, so you don't have a shaila. That's the kiyotzeba of the Shulchan Aruch with Iran. The Pusha doesn't exist such tray for food. You read the notes, the tshuvas they have in the OU, they had such a question. Here again, a mashgiach was overseeing a cheese production and forgot to seal it, went away, came back a few weeks later. Everything's in its original state, but totally unsealed. It so happens to be that kosher cheese blocks are 40 pounds and are square. Treifa cheese blocks, or Gvinas Akum cheese blocks, are a different weight and are always rectangle. And Mamela, the Shaila came to Rabbi Belsky and said, is it mutter? And he said, yeah, well, because I can't get a 40-pound square Treifa block, and therefore it is mutter. The Taz says another way it would be mutter is if it's nikr b'tvias ayin, you can recognize this is your food. You left it there. Let's say the case of the lunch in the refrigerator. Besides other term of mavel l'rabim and yetzav v'nichnas and chaysim echad, but I can recognize this is my wife's cooking. If you recognize it, then you don't have the shayla. The Mabit has a shayla as follows. I sent meat via the post office. Sent it by mail. It arrived without any chaysim. Is it mutter to eat? And he says, l'chayra on the post office we have a chazaka umen loy mara umnase. The Mabit himself says, so therefore 2 chaysamis is not necessary, 1 is enough. Pashtus, if you hold of umen loy mara umnase, then it should work even without any chaysamis. So there's a story going around that people went to Eretz Yisrael for Pesach, and they made all the meat, put it in their suitcase, and took it to Eretz Yisrael. When they arrived in Eretz Yisrael, they opened it up. They see that the security in England opened up their suitcase and opened everything up to check what it is. And it arrived unsealed. So what's the halacha? So now, if it's nicker, you could tell what your wife's brisket looks like. So then, stamazay it's mutazay state in the taz. But besides that, l'chayra on the people in the TSA, or the British TSA it was, you have an loy maram nase. They're not going to go eat up people's meat and switch it. They're going to lose their job. Furthermore, there happens to be cameras over there, so at least it's a mokem mavel rabim of goyim, and therefore l'chayra b'diavad it is mutter.
So any deliveries, any delivery company.
Wait. Can't steal the whole share. Well, I want to see how many heterim we could say at the end. One more thing. It says in Siman Kuf Yud Ches Sivov, even if it's nenev b'chalipin, it's mutter if it's a yaitze v'nichnas. Not both, whatever. It's mutter by Sif Yud, by yaitze v'nichnas. However, and it's mutter l'chatchila if there's a yaitze v'nichnas. But it depends. And yaitze v'nichnas means the door is open. It says in Hilchas Yayin Nesach, even if there's no door open, there's a keyhole and you can look into it, it is mutter. There's a crack in the wall and you can look into it, it's mutter. In of our terms, if there's cameras there, it is mutter. However, it says that that's only Yaitz v'nichnas for a short amount of time. But if it's a Yaitz v'nichnas l'zman meruba, then it's only mutter di'evet. What's called Zman Meruba? How often do you have to come in and out? The Kesef Mishnah says every 18 minutes. Or you could have come in within 18 minutes. The Lechem Mishnah says, no, that's too short. many parsas. The Bach says a half a day. If it's more than a half a day, then it's not a Yaitz V'Nichnas. What happens if you're in the house, but you're sleeping? Is that called the Yaitz V'Nichnas? And the Ben Ish Chai in Rav Pa'alim says, it depends. Shinas Arai is a Yaitz V'Nichnas, Shinas Kva not. The Chayre he meant the Bach. Now let's go to the, like I say, most commonly asked question. You order something on Uber Eats from your restaurant. You order a whole meal. It comes exactly what you ordered, but unsealed. It came just with one seal, so we know the Ramah says that a guy, b'di'evet, is mutter with one seal. Came unsealed, but it's exactly what you ordered. Is it mutter to eat? At least b'di'evet. Now let's go through. How is it delivered? I don't know here in Florida, but in London, they come on little motorcycles or bicycles. L'chayra, that's a mokem maver l'rabim. Whether it's maver rabim shchunas Yisrael or not depends how long, where it went to, from where to where, and it also depends how long it took to be delivered. That's one. Number two, this is his job to deliver. If he switches something, he loses his job. It's not like Sheleach Alidei Nachri. This is an Umen Leimaram Nose. Number three, the Chayra, it's not a Nene B'Chalipin. Person has no benefit. If it's in the city, he has absolutely no benefit from switching it. And therefore, l'chayra, the combination of umen leimaram nase, together with no benefit, together with mokem maver l'rabim, l'chayra will tell you, at the very least, b'di'evet, it is mutter. Now, this is also the type of food that's very generic, maybe a pizza. But there are certain foods that you can tell it came from this restaurant. There are signature dishes which are more advanced. And a guy can't simply eat it up and replace it. Go to a guy's place and replace it. They don't have those types of dishes. Or it's nicker where it came from. So that's a fourth svara. Weiter, if it's a meichel that only Yidden make, or only made kosher, so that's the fifth svara. The difference is the last two svaras are mutter l'chatchila. The first three svaras are mutter b'di'evet. Ha'olam ha'kol now is from the customer's perspective. L'chayra, if you ordered something and you know it left the store and it arrives exactly what you ordered, l'chayra from the customer's perspective, at the very least it is mutter b'di'evet. Still is not a nene b'chalipin, and it's still a mokem marvel l'ravim, and still it's umen leimaram nase, and therefore it's mutter. That is from the perspective of the consumer who's hungry at the moment and needs the food. From the perspective of the kashrus organization, this is very, very bad practice, because what usually will happen is that the customer will call up the hashgacha and say, you know, I ordered something from a restaurant under your kashrah, and it came unsealed. You go tell them, you should know. Okay, Allah, it's mutter. Ma bit umen leimaram nase. Mokem mav l'rabim, the shach shteit as a mutter. Rabbi Zril Auerbach says that even a car is a mokem mav l'rabim. The Ramah says, ein nene b'chalipin is mutter b'di'evet. And b'chlal, where are you going to find, trefa kishka from? Anyway, it's all true, la halacha. But if you tell this to the customer, so you should know the person you're giving a hechsher on clues in, everything they told me is not true. They told me I have to seal it. I don't have to seal it. The raya is, I sent it unsealed, and the customer got it, and he called up the rabbi, and the rabbi said it's good. And you should know what's the evid. In chinuch we say what's the evid for one generation becomes the chatchila for the next generation. In business, what's the evid 1 minute, the next minute turns into a chatchila. And therefore, as a matter of course, you have to tell the people, again, from a policy perspective, that return it to the store. Now, you might say, but that's a Choshen Mishpat question, because I'm being mafsid the store. We always have to make a tie-in Choshen Mishpat. This year we're doing Eredeya, but there's a Choshen Mishpat question. I'm telling the store to replace something which Al Pi Din is mutter, and it could be if it's Nikir or it's a Meichel Yehudi, it's even mutter l'chatchila. So how am I supposed to? How am I allowed to do that? It's very nice. I'm being cautious in Yeredeya, and I'm thinking about the future, but it so happens to be that I'm being mafsid moment. Oh, and the answer is, have here a contract. What? Yeah. The client's keeping quiet today. Anyway, it says, we sign a contract with the provider, and it says foods are placed in a box as well as a bag. Then it has to be sealed with 2 of the following staples, cautious labels, stickers, and receipts. And then it says, the company will repair or replace free of charge goods damaged in transit, or if the seals are open on transit, provided there's notification within 3 days. Because if you write that in the contract, so then Al Pi Din, they just didn't deliver what was ordered. It's a Choshen Mishpat thing. You ordered something that's sealed, and they delivered something which is not sealed. It's not what you ordered. It's a plain mekach. It's a plain mekach. The manufacturer or the merchant has to replace it, and therefore the person is not doing anything wrong by telling them to replace it. But al kapanim, in a pure halacha, it is mutter for the reasons outlined, like we say, b'di'evet it's mutter because ein nene b'chalipin, it's umin maram nosei, and it's a makam marvel rabim. If it's nikir or it's something which is only a Jewish machal, it's even mutter l'chatchila. As a matter of policy, going from the other end, what you have to do is make up with the store that they're going to do a return policy, and you can even add, if you want to motivate, that not only they're going to return it, but they'll compensate the person for his lost time or for his hunger. And they have to add in some extra foods. Recently it happened, and I wanted to test it myself even, and I ordered, and it came with something missing, and we called back, and they said, okay, and we have to now compensate you by sending you wraps and something else also, and that's the way you ensure people thing. In other words, we want to make it sa'ena nena b'chalifin in every which way. That's lacha rabbi.
So if I don't ask the rabbi, I can have my dinner now, but if I ask the rabbi, I gotta wait for the second delivery.
No, if you ask the rabbi giving the hechsher, you're going to wait. If you'll ask a different rabbi who's not in the hechsher business, he'll tell you. It's mutter. What?
You could still eat it, they just extend it.
Yeah, yeah.